Lisa Morgan sat at her desk, eyes fixed on the alien text that filled her screen. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as she typed notes. The office around her was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. This was where she felt most at home, surrounded by words from other worlds. Lisa worked as a xenolinguist for the United Earth Defense Force. She studied and decoded alien languages. It was work that kept her far from danger, which was exactly how she liked it. At 32 years old, with 10 years in the service, she had built a reputation as one of the best in her field. The soft ping of her computer made her look up. A new message had arrived from Captain William Howard. It was marked urgent. "Report to my office immediately," it read. Lisa frowned. Captain Howard rarely called for immediate meetings. She saved her work, straightened her blue uniform, and left. Her quiet office. The hallways of Earth Defense Headquarters were busy. Officers and analysts walked quickly, their faces serious. Something was happening. Lisa could feel the tension in the air as she made her way to the captain's office. She knocked on the door. "Enter," called a deep voice from inside. Captain Howard sat behind his desk. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face lined from years of difficult decisions. Lisa had always respected him for his fair treatment of his team. "Lieutenant Morgan, thank you for coming so quickly," he said, waving her to a chair. "What's happening, sir?" Lisa asked as she sat down. The captain touched a control on his desk. A large screen on the wall lit up, showing a star map. A cluster of red dots moved slowly across it. "This is the Xyraxian fleet," he said. 500 ships, heading toward Outpost Zeta 9. Lisa felt her mouth go dry. The Xyraxians were a powerful alien race, known for their strict adherence to their ancient laws and customs. They rarely ventured near human space. "Outpost Zeta 9, she said. "That's where we have the archaeological research station, right?" Captain Howard nodded. 3,000 people live there. Scientists, support staff, and their families. He slid a small computer pad across his desk to her. "We've intercepted communications from their fleet. I need you to tell me what they're saying." Lisa picked up the pad and began to read. The text was in an older form of the Xyraxian language, one used mainly for formal or military communications. As she read, her heart beat faster. "This is bad, sir," she said, looking up. "They're using war language, old war language. They believe we've done something terrible. What do they think we've done?" The captain asked. Lisa continued reading, her mind quickly translating the complex alien script. The outpost was built near an ancient Xyraxian temple. They're saying we've desecrated it somehow. She looked up. "But that's not possible. Our teams have been extremely careful." The archaeological teams followed all known Xyraxian protocols for handling sacred sites. Captain Howard's face was grim. "Can you be sure of that?" Lisa nodded firmly. "Yes, sir. I helped write those protocols myself. This has to be a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding that could cost 3,000 lives," the captain said. He touched the control again, and the image changed to show the positions of Earth's defense ships. "Our nearest battle group is 4 days away. The Xyraxians will reach the outpost in 12 hours. Lisa stared at the screen, her mind racing. She had spent years studying Xyraxian culture, their language, their customs, their laws. She knew how they thought, how they made decisions. "Sir," she said slowly, "I think I might be able to help." The captain raised an eyebrow. "How?" "Send me to meet them," Lisa said, surprising herself with her own words. "Let me talk to them before they reach the outpost." Captain Howard stared at her. "You want to face a Xyraxian war fleet alone?" "Yes, sir." Lisa's voice grew stronger as she thought it through. "Their culture values knowledge and respect. If I can show them that we understand their concerns, that we've acted according to their own ancient laws, maybe I can convince them to wait." "To listen, that's a big risk, Lieutenant," the captain said. "For you and for everyone at that outpost?" Lisa looked at the screen again, at the red dots moving steadily toward the human outpost. She thought of the families there, unaware of the danger heading their way. "Sometimes words are more powerful than weapons, sir," she said quietly. "Let me try." The captain was silent for a long moment. Lisa could almost see him weighing options in his mind, calculating risks and possibilities. Finally, he nodded. All right, Lieutenant Morgan, we'll try it your way. He stood up and walked around his desk. I'll give you our fastest diplomatic shuttle. You'll have just enough time to intercept them before they reach the outpost. Thank you, sir, Lisa said, standing. As well, don't thank me yet, he said grimly. I'm sending you into extreme danger if you fail ... I won't fail, Lisa said with more confidence than she felt. I know their language, I know their culture, I can do this. As she turned to leave, the captain called after her, Lieutenant. She paused at the door. Why are you doing this? He asked. This isn't your job. You're an analyst, not a diplomat. Lisa thought about it for a moment. Because I can, she said simply. Because I might be the only one who can. 2 hours later, Lisa stood in the launch bay, watching as technicians prepared the small diplomatic shuttle. It was a sleek vessel built for speed rather than combat. It had no weapons, only strong shields and advanced communication systems. Sergeant Jack Nelson, a young communications officer assigned to accompany her, walked up. His face showed both excitement and fear. Ship's ready, Lieutenant, he said. But are you sure about this? Zeraxians aren't known for their patience with anyone. Lisa looked at the shuttle, then back at Jack. Fear fluttered in her stomach, but she pushed it down. Sometimes understanding your enemy is the most powerful weapon of all. She said, let's go face those 500 ships. As they boarded the shuttle, Lisa went over her plan in her mind. She would need every bit of her knowledge, every skill she had developed over her career. The lives of 3,000 people depended on her ability to make the Zeraxians listen. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, she felt a strange calm settle over her as the shuttle's engines hummed to life. She was ready. The small diplomatic shuttle flew through space at its highest speed. Lisa sat in the main cabin, surrounded by screens showing data about the Zeraxians. She read through ancient texts and recent reports, refreshing her memory on their customs. And laws. Jack Nelson watched her from his station at the communications panel. We'll reach them in 30 minutes, he said, his voice tight with worry. Lisa nodded without looking up. She had spent the 6-hour journey preparing herself. She knew she would only get one chance to convince the Zeraxians to listen. Do you really think you can stop them? Jack asked. 500 warships against one small shuttle? Lisa finally looked up. I'm not trying to stop them with force, she said. I'm trying to stop them with understanding. She stood up and walked to the window. In the distance, she could see them now, tiny points of light that grew larger with each passing minute. The Zeraxian war fleet. Their society is built on strict rules and traditions, she explained. If I can show them that we've followed their laws correctly, they might listen. If I can convince them that destroying the outpost would actually break their own sacred laws, they might stop. Jack didn't look convinced. And if they don't listen? Lisa took a deep breath. Then at least I tried. The next 20 minutes passed quickly as Lisa continued to prepare. She changed into her formal uniform and practiced the correct Zeraxian greeting phrases. Her heart beat faster as the shuttle's computer announced they were approaching the fleet. Through the window, Lisa could now see the Zeraxian ships clearly. They were large and shaped like flat triangles, their metal surfaces gleaming in the light of the distant sun. They moved in perfect formation, a display of discipline and power. They're hailing us, Jack said suddenly. His fingers moved across his control panel. Audio and visual. Lisa straightened her uniform and stood in the center of the cabin. Put them on screen. The main screen lit up, showing the interior of a Zeraxian command ship. In the center stood Supreme Commander Kralthax. He was tall, with scaled skin that shimmered with a blue-green color. His face featured 4 eyes and a set of small mandibles that clicked together when he spoke. He wore ornate armor that marked his high rank. Human vessel, the commander said in his own language, his voice deep and rumbling. You have entered Zeraxian battlespace. Identify yourself or be destroyed. Lisa stepped forward. When she spoke, she used perfect High Xeraxian with the formal tones used for official meetings. "Honored Supreme Commander," she said, bowing her head slightly as Xeraxian custom required. "I am Lieutenant Lisa Morgan of the United Earth Defense Force. I come under the ancient right of diplomatic sanctuary to address a matter of great importance to both our peoples." The commander's 4 eyes blinked in surprise at her use of his language and the formal protocol. The bridge of his ship fell silent. "You speak the high tongue," he said after a moment. "Few humans have mastered it." "I have studied your language and culture for many years," Lisa replied. "I come with respect and in peace." The commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of thinking or consideration in Xeraxian body language. "State your purpose," he sighed. "I wish to discuss the matter of Outpost Z9 in the Temple of Eternal Memory," Lisa said. "I believe there has been a misunderstanding that, if not corrected, could lead to an unnecessary conflict." Kralthak's eyes narrowed. "There is no misunderstanding. Your people have desecrated a sacred site. Our laws are clear. The penalty is destruction." Lisa had expected this response. She needed to tread carefully now. "Supreme Commander, with the greatest respect, I ask for the opportunity to present evidence that no desecration has occurred. According to the Scroll of Kralthak's, Section 12, Paragraph 4, no judgment may be passed without full knowledge of actions and intent." She was quoting one of their most sacred legal texts. It was a risky move, but she needed to establish her knowledge of their ways. The commander studied her for a long moment. The other Xeraxians on his bridge watched in silence. "You quote our sacred texts," he said finally. "Few outsiders know them." "I know them because I respect them," Lisa replied. "The protocols used at the Temple of Eternal Memory were designed to honor Xeraxian traditions, not to violate them." Kralthak seemed to consider this. Lisa held her breath, hoping her approach was working. "You may dock with my ship," he said at last. "You will present your evidence directly. If it is found lacking, your life and the lives of all at the outpost will be forfeit." The screen went dark. Jack let out a breath he had been holding. "Did that just work?" he asked, amazed. "It's just the first step," Lisa said. "But yes, they're willing to listen." For now, the shuttle approached the largest ship in the fleet. It was massive, at least 20 times the size of their small vessel. As they drew closer, a docking bay opened like a mouth in the side of the great ship. "I should go with you," Jack said as they prepared to dock. Lisa shook her head. "No, stay. With the shuttle, keep communications open with Earth. If things go wrong, they'll need to know." Jack nodded reluctantly. "Be careful in there. The Xeraxians aren't known for their patience." "I know," Lisa said. "But they do value knowledge. And proper procedure. I'm counting on that." The shuttle settled into the docking bay with a gentle thud. Through the window, Lisa could see Xeraxian soldiers waiting, their weapons held at ready positions. Lisa took a deep breath and straightened her uniform one last time. She thought of the 3,000 people at the outpost, unaware of how close they were to destruction. She thought of Captain Howard, who had trusted her with this mission. "Here goes nothing," she whispered to herself. As the shuttle door opened, Lisa stepped forward to face the Xeraxians. 500 ships waited outside, their weapons capable of destroying her and everyone she was trying to save. But she had come prepared with knowledge, respect, and determination. Against all odds, she felt a small smile form on her lips as she walked forward to meet her enemies. Lisa walked between 2 rows of Xeraxian guards. Their scaled skin glowed under the blue lights of the ship. Each guard stood perfectly still, holding weapons that could kill her in an instant. Lisa kept her head high and her step steady. An officer led her through long hallways. The inside of the Xeraxian ship was both beautiful and strange. The walls were made of a dark metal with patterns that seemed to move when she looked at them. The air felt warmer and heavier than on human ships. They entered a large round room. Supreme Commander Kralthak stood in the center, surrounded by other high-ranking Xeraxians. Lisa recognized the markings on their armor that showed their positions and clans. "Lieutenant Lisa Morgan," Kralthak said, his voice echoing in the chamber. You stand before the War Council of the Xeraxian Empire. Lisa bowed in the formal Xeraxian style, keeping her eyes down for exactly 3 seconds before looking up again. I am honored by your attention, Supreme Commander. You claim that your people have not desecrated the Temple of Eternal Memory, he said. Yet our observers have reported humans touching sacred objects, removing items from their resting places, and using machines near holy ground, Lisa nodded. May I show you what we have done at the temple? Kralthax made a gesture of permission with his right hand. Lisa took out the small computer pad she had brought with her. She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the air. Between them, it showed the temple as it had been when humans first discovered it 3 years ago. The ancient stone building was half buried in dirt and by time. Plants grew through cracks in the walls, and part of the roof had fallen in. This is how we found the Temple of Eternal Memory, Lisa explained. It was damaged by natural forces over many centuries. She pressed another button, and the image changed. Now it showed human workers carefully removing dirt from around the temple. They worked by hand, not with machines. Our archaeologists used the methods described in the Scroll of Velinor, Lisa said, naming another sacred Xeraxian text. No machines were used within 20 paces of the sacred ground. Kralthax's eyes narrowed. The Scroll of Velinor is not shared with outsiders? How do you know of it? I studied with Elder Trazken at the Great Library on your homeworld, Lisa said. 5 years ago, he granted me permission to learn from the public scrolls. This was not something she had planned to reveal so early, but she needed to establish her credentials. Elder Trazken was highly respected among the Xeraxians, and his approval carried weight. One of the other Xeraxians stepped forward. I know Elder Trazken. He would not share our ways lightly. He did not, Lisa agreed. I spent 2 years proving my respect and worthiness before he allowed me access to even the most basic texts. Kralthax seemed slightly less hostile now. Continue your explanation. Lisa showed more images. They saw humans carefully cleaning the temple stones with soft brushes. They saw specialists repairing the roof using only traditional Xeraxian methods. We restored the temple according to the ancient ways, Lisa said. No modern materials were used. No sacred objects were removed except for cleaning, and they were returned to their exact positions. She showed a final image, the temple as it looked now. It stood proud and whole again, its stone walls clean and strong, the symbols on its columns clear and visible. We did not desecrate the temple, Lisa said firmly. We preserved it, following your own sacred laws and traditions. The room was silent for a long moment. Lisa could feel the Xeraxians studying her, judging her words. Finally, Kralthax spoke. Your knowledge is impressive, human. But knowledge alone does not prove innocence. Our observers reported sacred objects being touched with bare hands. This is forbidden. Lisa had expected this accusation. Supreme Commander, may I ask which objects were reportedly touched? The Stone of Ages in the inner chamber, said another Xeraxian. And the 7 symbols of creation, Lisa nodded. The 4th book of Kralthur, chapter 9, verses 12 through 16, states that the worthy may touch the sacred if their hearts are pure, and their purpose is preservation. The Xeraxians looked at each other in surprise. Lisa continued, Our team included Dr. Sam Green, who studied the 4th book extensively. He performed the ritual of purification before touching any sacred object, and only touched them to prevent further damage. You claim your people performed our sacred rituals? Kralthax asked, his tone skeptical. Yes, Lisa said. She pressed another button on her pad. A new hologram appeared, showing a human man performing a complex Xeraxian ritual, washing his hands in sacred oils and speaking the ancient words perfectly. Dr. Green learned your ways from me, and I learned from Elder Trazken, Lisa explained. Every sacred object was treated with proper respect. Kralthax was silent again, thinking. Lisa could see the other Xeraxians watching him, waiting for his decision. Your evidence is compelling, he said finally, but not conclusive. There is another matter. What matter, Supreme Commander? Lisa asked. The removal of soil from the temple grounds, he said. Our laws forbid taking any part of a sacred site away. Lisa had not expected this. She thought quickly, trying to remember if any soil had been removed. Then she understood. You refer to the soil samples taken for dating, she said, to determine the age of the temple. Yes, Kralthax said, this is strictly forbidden. Lisa took a deep breath. This was a critical moment. She needed to be very careful with her next words. Supreme Commander, I respectfully disagree, she said. The room grew tense at her challenge. The Book of Vishtar states that knowledge of the sacred enhances its glory. The soil was studied to determine when your ancestors built the temple to honor their achievement. One of the older Zaraxians stepped forward. She quotes the Book of Vishtar correctly, he said. But that book is even more restricted than the others she has mentioned? Few even among our own people have read it? I have not read the entire book, Lisa admitted honestly. Only the sections that Elder Traskin deemed relevant to archaeological work. Kralthax studied her with all four of his eyes. You continue to surprise me, Lieutenant Morgan. Your knowledge of our ways exceeds that of any human I have encountered. I have devoted my life to understanding your culture, Lisa said simply. Not to exploit it, but to ensure that our peoples can respect each other's ways. The Supreme Commander made a gesture, and the other Zaraxians followed him to the far side of the room. They spoke in low voices, sometimes looking back at Lisa. She stood calmly, waiting for their decision. After several minutes, they returned. We require more information before making our judgment, Kralthax announced. You will remain aboard this ship while we verify your claims. May I contact my shuttle? Lisa asked. My communications officer will be concerned. You may, Kralthax said, but you will remain here until this matter is resolved. As a guard led her to a communication station, Lisa felt both relief and tension. She had not convinced them yet, but they were listening. It was a start. The guard left her alone at the station. Lisa activated and called Jack. Lisa, are you okay? Jack's worried face appeared on the screen. I'm fine, she said quietly. They're considering my evidence. It's going better than I expected, but it's not over yet. What happens now? Jack asked. Lisa looked around the alien ship. Now, we wait and hope. Lisa sat in a small room on the Zaraxian ship. The walls were the same dark metal she had seen throughout the vessel. A single light glowed from the ceiling. There was a table and 2 chairs, both made for Zaraxian bodies and uncomfortable for humans. 6 hours had passed since her meeting with Kralthax. She had been given water and a bland food paste that was safe for humans to eat. No one had told her what was happening, but she knew the Zaraxians were checking her claims. The door slid open. A Zaraxian officer stood there, his armor marking him as a high-ranking member of their military. Lieutenant Morgan, Supreme Commander Kralthax requests your presence, he said in his own language. Lisa stood up. Thank you, officer. I am ready. She followed him through the corridors of the ship. They passed many Zaraxians who turned to watch her with curious eyes. Humans rarely walked freely on their warships. They entered a new room, larger than the council chamber. It appeared to be a communication center. Large screens covered the walls, showing different views of space and other ships. Kralthax stood in the center, speaking with several advisors. When he saw Lisa, he dismissed them with a gesture. Lieutenant Morgan, he said, we have been busy while you waited. I hope your investigations were productive, Supreme Commander. Lisa replied politely. Kralthax made a sound that might have been a laugh. Direct communication with Elder Traskin was indeed productive. He confirmed your studies under his guidance. Lisa felt a small surge of hope. If they had spoken to Elder Traskin, that was a good sign. We have also reviewed the records from the temple site, Kralthax continued. The evidence supports your claim that proper rituals were observed. Thank you for confirming this, Lisa said. Does this mean you will spare the outpost? Kralthax says. 4 eyes blinked in sequence. It is not so simple. While your team may have followed the letter of our laws, there is still the matter of permission. No one sought approval from the temple guardians before beginning work. Lisa frowned. This was something she hadn't anticipated. I was not aware that the temple guardians still existed for that site. Our records indicated the temple had been abandoned for over 5 centuries. The guardians exist for all temples, whether occupied or not, Kralthak said. His tone was stern but not angry. This is a serious oversight. Lisa thought quickly. She needed to find a solution that would satisfy Xeraxian law without condemning the outpost. Supreme Commander, she said carefully, the Ancient Code of Temples, Section 3, provides for cases where sacred sites are rediscovered after being lost. It states that those who find and honor a forgotten temple may seek retroactive blessing from the Guardian Council. Kralthak's mandibles clicked in surprise. You know the Ancient Code as well? Not all of it, Lisa admitted. But the sections relevant to archaeological work? Yes. One of the advisors who had remained at the edge of the room stepped forward. She is correct, Supreme Commander. The code does provide for such cases. Kralthak seemed to consider this. Even if that is true, such blessing must be sought in person before the full Guardian Council on our homeworld. This would take months to arrange, Lisa saw her opportunity. Perhaps there is a compromise. What if I request an emergency session of the Guardian Council? They could meet via communication, like this. She gestured to the screens around them. The Guardian Council does not conduct business by communication, Kralthak said dismissively. With respect, Lisa said, the Scroll of Exceptions, written after the Great Calamity, does allow for remote sessions in times of potential conflict. The room fell silent. The Xeraxians stared at her in astonishment. The Scroll of Exceptions is our most guarded text, one advisor said. How could you possibly know of it? Lisa realized she might have overplayed her hand. Elder Traskin mentioned it once in passing. He did not show me the text itself, only noted its existence and primary purpose. Kralthak studied her for a long moment. You continue to demonstrate knowledge that few outsiders possess. This is ... unusual, he turned to one of his officers. Contact the Guardian Council. Inform them of the situation and request an emergency. Remote session, as provided for in the Scroll of Exceptions. The officer saluted and hurried away. Kralthak turned back to Lisa. If the Council agrees to meet, you will present your case to them. Their decision will be final. Thank you, Supreme Commander, Lisa said, bowing. This is most fair. Kralthak made a gesture that in Xeraxian culture indicated both acknowledgement and dismissal. Until the Council responds, you will be returned to your waiting room. As Lisa turned to follow her escort, Kralthak spoke again. Lieutenant Morgan, there is one thing I do not understand. She paused. Yes, Supreme Commander. Why do you know so much about our ways? What benefit does this knowledge bring you? It was an honest question, not an accusation. Lisa considered her answer carefully. Understanding builds bridges between different peoples, she said finally. I studied your ways because I believe our species can learn from each other, but only if we first understand and respect our differences. Kralthak seemed to accept this answer. He nodded once and Lisa was led back to her waiting room. 2 more hours passed. Lisa tried to stay calm, but tension built inside her. The lives of 3,000 people depended on what happened next. Her thoughts were interrupted when the door opened again. The same officer as before stood there. The Guardian Council has agreed to an emergency session, he said. You will address them now. Lisa's heart beat faster as she followed him back to the communication center. This was the moment that would decide everything. The room had changed. The large screens now showed the faces of 7 elderly Xeraxians, each wearing elaborate ceremonial headdresses that marked them as temple guardians. They sat in a semicircle, their ancient faces solemn and imposing. Kralthak stood to one side, no longer the center of authority in this matter. The Guardian Council outranked even him in matters of sacred sites. The center guardian, whose headdress was larger and more ornate than the others, spoke first. I am High Guardian Vrexkar. We have been informed of the situation concerning the Temple of Eternal Memory. You claim that humans have restored the temple without proper permission, yet according to proper methods. Lisa bowed deeply. Yes, High Guardian. I seek retroactive blessing for the work done, as provided for in the ancient code. Such blessing is rarely granted, another guardian said, her voice crackling with age. Why should we make an exception? Because the work was done with respect and according to your sacred laws, Lisa replied. The temple was in danger of collapse. Our team preserved it for future generations, both Xeraxian and human. She touched her computer pad, and images appeared on a smaller screen between her and the council. They showed the temple as it had been, damaged and crumbling, and as it was now, restored and strong. Without intervention, the temple of eternal memory would have been lost forever, Lisa said. Is that what the ancestors would have wanted? The guardians conferred among themselves, speaking too quietly for Lisa to hear. She waited, her future and the future of the outpost hanging in the balance. Finally, High Guardian Vrexkar spoke. Again, your knowledge of our ways is impressive, Lieutenant Morgan, but knowledge alone is not enough. There must also be true respect. I agree completely, Lisa said. Then we will test that respect, the High Guardian said. The trial of knowledge awaits you. Lisa stood in a large circular room deep within the Xeraxian ship. The walls were covered with ancient symbols, and the air smelled of strange spices. 7 temple guardians sat in high chairs around the edge of the room, looking down at her. In the center was a small stone platform where Lisa stood alone. The trial of knowledge is sacred to our people, High Guardian Vrexkar explained. Few outsiders have ever taken it, none have passed. Lisa nodded. She had read about this trial but never expected to face it herself. I understand the honor and the responsibility, High Guardian. The trial has 3 parts, Vrexkar continued. Knowledge of history, understanding of ritual, and wisdom of application. Are you prepared to begin? Lisa straightened her shoulders. I am prepared, the first guardian to her right spoke. When was the Temple of Eternal Memory built, and by whom? Lisa recalled her studies. The temple was built 2,743 cycles ago. During the reign of Emperor Vexthal the Wise, it was designed by Master Builder Krolvik and commissioned after the great victory at Zardan. The guardian's eyes widened slightly. Correct, she said. The next guardian asked. What materials were used in the temple's construction, and why? The outer walls were built with stone from the sacred mountain, Lisa answered. The inner chambers used metal from the first mines. Both materials were chosen because they connect the temple to both the sky and the earth, symbolizing the balance of all things. Correct, the second guardian said. The questions continued, each more difficult than the last. Lisa drew on every piece of knowledge she had gained over her years of study. When asked about obscure rituals or forgotten customs, she sometimes had to think hard before answering. One guardian asked about the 7 sacred postures used in temple worship. Lisa not only named them but demonstrated each one, her body moving through the formal positions with practiced ease. The guardians murmured in approval. Another asked about the ancient chant used to consecrate new objects brought into the temple. Lisa recited it perfectly, her pronunciation exact despite the difficult sounds that human tongues rarely formed correctly. After an hour of questioning, they reached the final section of the trial, wisdom of application. High Guardian Vrexkar leaned forward. A sacred object has been damaged by natural disaster. The traditional method of repair requires materials that no longer exist. What is the proper course of action? This was not a question with a simple answer from a book. Lisa had to think carefully about Xeraxian values and principles. The purpose of tradition is to preserve meaning, not just form, she said slowly. I would consult the Guardian Council for guidance. If they approved, I would use the closest available materials, but only after performing the ritual of substitution as described in the Scroll of Adaptations. The repair would honor the original intent while acknowledging the necessary change. The Guardians looked at each other. They seemed surprised by her answer. That is correct, Vrexkar said. Few even among our own people would know of the ritual of substitution. The final guardian spoke. One last question. Why should humans be allowed to touch our sacred places at all? What right do you have to our history? Lisa recognized this as the most important question of all. Her answer would determine everything. "We have no inherent right to your sacred places," she said honestly. "We ask for permission because we believe all history has value, and all cultures deserve respect. The Temple of Eternal Memory tells the story of your people, a story worth preserving. We did not seek to claim it as our own, only to ensure it survives for future generations of Xeraxians to connect with their past." The room fell silent. The 7 guardians looked at each other, communicating with subtle movements of their eyes and mandibles. Lisa waited, her heart beating fast but her face calm. Finally, High Guardian Vrexkar spoke. "In all the history of the trial of knowledge, no outsider has ever demonstrated such complete understanding of our ways." "You have passed the trial, Lieutenant Lisa Morgan?" Relief flooded through Lisa, but she kept her composure. "Thank you, High Guardian. I am honored. We grant retroactive blessing for the work done at the Temple of Eternal Memory," Vrexkar announced. "Furthermore, we appoint you as liaison between our peoples for all matters concerning sacred sites. Any future work must be coordinated through you." Lisa bowed deeply. "I will serve this role with the utmost respect and care." The Guardian Council's decision was transmitted throughout the Xeraxian fleet. Lisa was escorted back to the command center, where Supreme Commander Kralthax waited. "The Guardian Council has ruled," he said. "Their wisdom is final. We will not attack the outpost." "Thank you, Supreme Commander," Lisa said. "This is a wise decision that honors both our peoples." Kralthax studied her with all 4 of his eyes. "You have done something remarkable today, Lieutenant Morgan. You faced the might of the Xeraxian Empire armed only with knowledge and respect." "Sometimes those are the strongest weapons," Lisa replied. "Indeed." Kralthax made a formal gesture of respect with both hands. "You may return to your shuttle. We will depart from this sector immediately." As Lisa walked toward the docking bay, flanked by Xeraxian guards who now treated her with obvious respect, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had saved 3,000 lives without firing a single shot. Jack was waiting anxiously by a shuttle when she arrived. His face lit up with relief when he saw her. "You're alive," he exclaimed. "What happened in there?" "I'll explain everything once we're on our way," Lisa said, smiling as they entered the shuttle. As they prepared for departure, Lisa looked out at the massive Xeraxian fleet through the viewport. 500 warships that could have destroyed everything she was trying to protect. Yet here she was, heading home victorious. The shuttle lifted off from the docking bay and moved away from the Xeraxian command ship. Through the communication system, Lisa heard Kralthax give the order for the fleet to change course. Slowly, the massive ships began to turn away from the path to Outpost Ziga 9. "I can't believe it," Jack said, watching the fleet move away. "You actually did it. How do you feel?" Lisa thought about the question. She had been scared, yes. The responsibility had been enormous. But throughout it all, she had felt a strange confidence in her knowledge and her approach. "I feel good," she said simply. It was the right thing to do. 3 days later, Lisa stood at attention in Captain Howard's office, giving her final report. She had already explained everything that had happened, from the first meeting with Kralthax to the trial of knowledge. "Your actions saved 3,000 lives, Lieutenant Morgan," Captain Howard said. "That's an extraordinary achievement." "Thank you, sir," Lisa replied. "There's one thing I'm still curious about," the captain said. "When you first stood before the Xeraxian fleet, 500 warships against one small shuttle, weren't you terrified?" Lisa thought back to that moment, to the sight of those massive ships surrounding her tiny vessel. She had been aware of the danger, certainly, but she had also felt a strange sense of purpose, a confidence in her knowledge and her mission. "Honestly, sir," she said, a smile spreading across her face, "I faced 500 enemies alone and I grinned."